Hey, Dan here with Tara, and we thought we'd put together a video for you about living or visiting Belgrade, Serbia. This is my third trip here, and this time I've been here over 2 months so far. And it's Tara's first time, but you'll be here a month in total, 2 weeks so far?
Yeah, about a month.
Roughly. And in terms of our backgrounds, if it's of curiosity, I hate the term digital nomad, but I guess we're both digital nomads. For convenience sake. I prefer location independent. Okay, that's my preferred pronoun. But yeah, so I have my own business. I mean, if you're a fan of the channel already, you know quite a bit about what I do. And Tara does freelance work and writing, is an author. And so part of when you're thinking of where to visit or where to live is like some of the factors, I would say cost of living.
Definitely.
Ease of living. Like some cities are really easy to live in. Whereas like New York to me, I've lived in New York a few times, like for a few months at a time, and I'm always tired. Like
yeah.
it just, like even like to find a place to write at is an ordeal.
Yeah, New York is something else.
And so like cost of living, ease of living, I pay attention to food, if it's like healthy and whatever. I normally cook a lot, haven't cooked here. And we'll get into more factors. I don't really need to list all the factors right here. So what were your first impressions of Belgrade?
Not Prague, to be
Not
honest. I was coming straight from Prague for over a month, and if you've been there, you know anything about Prague, you know it's absolutely gorgeous, like untouched, like beautiful Gothic and all these different types of architecture everywhere. And I would say Belgrade has more of a gritty vibe.
Gritty's the right word, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not as pristine, especially when you're coming from the airport and you're going through New Belgrade, which is the more communist era type construction. But you get like a very wide mix of buildings. So that was my first impression, was that the city is not as aesthetic as Prague, but also that people were super friendly and warm, I would say, compared to in the Czech Republic. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to live in Prague for 5 years, so I guess same kind of comparison. People much friendlier here. I said the last time I was here, I was telling everyone if you want to increase your tourism, they should run an ad where they have a picture of a Siberian Russian and then, you know, full stereotype, and then like a Greek person. And the ad should just be like, visit Serbia, we're like this, and point to the Greek person, not this. Because they use Cyrillic as their, it's not language. The language is Serbian, but Cyrillic is what
the alphabet.
the alphabet, that's the term I was trying to remember. It's a tough word, alphabet. So they use Cyrillic, and they do have like alliances with Russia and, you know, a sordid history. So people associate Serbia with like Russia, and it's people here are just Mediterranean, like warm, friendly. Even how they look, they're more kind of olive skin, kind of. I mean, not quite like Greek or that, but more that than Russian for sure. And so people here very warm, very friendly. The English is very good.
Very good. Yeah.
And if people, one thing when you're traveling is if people, there's their level of English and their comfort speaking English. So Czechs may or may not speak good English. No one will ever know because they're too scared to speak English. So they'll just be like, no, like get out of here often. Whereas here, people who barely speak English will be really trying with what they do speak and like putting in quite an effort. The city, I like it. It is gritty. When Gabby came, she said it was like Prague maybe 20 years ago. So a lot of the former communist countries, I mean, this is Yugoslav communist, which is very different than the type of experience it was for Czechs or Hungarians or those in the Soviet countries. But there's kind of that similarity of waiting for the economic pickup. So Czech Republic, basically any building in the center is renovated and really beautiful. Whereas here, there's not the money for it. It doesn't make financial sense to renovate a whole building. So it's definitely, a bit rougher in that way. Getting work done, what have you found?
Very convenient. If you want to find any place to work, you can just, walk towards not even the city center. Like you can pretty much, if you're anywhere, you don't have to be dead set in the center. Just walk somewhere. There's going to be a place, a cute cafe, like lovely decoration. It is much nicer than where I live in America. A lot of these places, they have Wi-Fi. A lot of them have outlets, like very, very good places to work everywhere.
Yeah, I found the same. Even when I first got here, I lived in a hotel for the first month, partially because I've always wanted to live in a hotel and partially because I got tired negotiating with Airbnbs. And it was located maybe 4 kilometers out of the center, closer to where some of my friends and team members live. And by the hotel, there was like 3 good places to work within 200 meters. Like an Italian restaurant that had a great breakfast and comfy tables to work from, a cafe, and some other restaurants. So it's not just the center, like you said, everywhere. I mean, Europe in general, but especially I think Belgrade, it's a cafe culture. People go out and sit and have a beer or coffee. Like there's got to be at least 200 places in the city that you could sit and work from. Maybe 50 that are really nicely set up if you want to go and write for 3 hours or something like that. So very good for that if you're working remotely or have your own freelance business or something like that. I think it's a great city. Writing a novel.
Yes.
I think a great place to get things done. Safety seems safe.
Very safe. I've had no problems.
Our drinks did get more and more expensive the night we went out to more of the nightclubs. But that's just standard foreigner. We're like that beer, the like first beer was cheaper than the third beer, and it's the same beer bottle. But I didn't bother putting up an argument at that point. And for all I know, I was getting the math wrong at that stage in the evening too, to be fair to the bartender. But yeah, there can be crime here, but I think property crime is going to be less than where I'm from, Vancouver, Canada, which is like the property crime capital, granted, of North America. And violent crime will be less than where you're from, which is America. So combined, I think it's like,
That's really high violent crime.
Which is an interesting thing with Europe and Eastern Europe specifically, is even though some of these countries are quite poor, or have, unemployment rates that aren't great or different things like that. And it varies by country. Like the unemployment rate in Prague is 0% basically. Even with COVID, I think it's only 3 or 4% or something. So some have great economies, but the violence doesn't really go up that much. I'm sure in the 90s there were things like shipping weapons to, the Bulgarian arms trade, and some of the countries like Bulgaria, I know for instance, is basically run by the mafia. But the day-to-day crime, they are weirdly safe.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like a traditional values or just whatever it is. But I mean, Prague, you can walk home at, I know this video is not about Prague. We're kind of just going all over the map here. But Prague, you can walk home at all hours, even as a woman, like alone. It's a very safe city. I don't know if Belgrade's like perfectly safe, but from all understandings, it's quite a safe city. And I don't really know why that is. Like,
no idea.
But there is a thing with like all Americas, South and North, we're much more stabby and shooty than the Europeans.
Yeah.
The same, like you compare the same unemployment rates, the same everything, the same inequality, and just more stabby and shooty. Americans often, for whatever reason, think the rest of the world is more dangerous than America. I don't know why. But almost all of Europe, the murder rate, which is kind of a good indication of violent crime, is like 1, 2, 3 per 100,000 versus like Chicago. But then even like I think your Seattle's and your Los Angeles and places. So usually Europe is very safe, and Belgrade I would say too. This has been a very rambly guide for people.
We can cut things.
We can cut things. This will be much more cut. So I would say, to wrap up the introduction to Belgrade, great place to work, get things done. We're both finishing a book this month, separate books. Lots to do. I mean, Belgrade is known as one of the nightlife legends of Europe. So it hasn't been too crazy for us with COVID and just getting writing done and everything. But there is a huge nightlife. People super friendly. Food is delicious and reasonably priced and healthy as well. Like traditional Serbian food is going to be vegetables, barbecued meat, salads. It's very good for you. And easy city, not beautiful, but nice, maybe inspiring. Like it's, one of the things when I go back home, I'm from a suburb in Western Canada, so it's about as like cookie cutter as you can get in many ways, except for the nature part, which is just there, but construction wise. And everything is the same. I remember walking like a kilometer into the city center and just looking at the sidewalk, I'm like, it's the exact same sidewalk for 1 kilometer. The houses look the same and it's like awful. Whereas, granted, there's holes in the sidewalk here and you might fall in. It keeps it creative. Like every street is different, every house is different. And I find that's always very good for my creative energy. I don't know about if you've fallen in any holes yet, or
I've almost had a couple of falls, but not quite. I think I love the cafes and the restaurants probably the most when it comes to the aesthetics of Belgrade. Like people just go, I feel like, above and beyond with some of the decor, the theming. It's so good.
Yeah.
And similar background, very suburban neighborhood.
We'll add some clips up of around like some of the best cafes we've worked from and stuff. But there's places that I think are nicer than anywhere back home where I'm from, at least for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of like casual cafes, restaurants, things like that to go work from, to hang out. Really, really nice. Coffee, not cheap for European standards, but like a latte or cappuccino is going to be $2. So reasonable for sure. Now, they're smaller. So if you're used to having a venti cappuccino at Starbucks, it probably works out to be the same price as here, to be honest. But yeah, coffee is going to be $2.
Yeah, beer is, it's not Prague, which is kind of good. I've been drinking less and just getting water sometimes, but yeah, the beer, it's still well
Beer
priced.
Beer would be what, $2 to $3 American dollars a beer, something like that.
Like still way cheaper than where I'm from. So.
Yeah, wine probably, $3-4 a glass. For alcohol, a lot of Western Europe is actually the same price or cheaper. Like Spain, it's cheaper to drink, I think. Not I think, I know. Portugal as well, sometimes on coffee and things. But yeah, some things here aren't super cheap. Clothing and anything, like if you're coming here for 3 months, don't come here to shop because electronics, clothing, all that is going to be the same or more, most likely more than wherever you're from. And that's just due to being a small economy, not part of the EU. People sometimes think that if somewhere is a lower income country, then it's always cheaper, which isn't how economics works. Like Germany has the cheapest groceries in Europe. It's one of the richest countries in Europe. Rent, what I've been spending is not a good indication because I was living in a 4-star hotel and then we're in a 5-bedroom house right now or apartment. But I think you could locally, like if you're here for long term, you want to move, and I've talked to a few clients who wanted to move to Belgrade, you could probably find a place $300-400 a month, like a studio apartment in the center, or if you want to move out for less. And then shorter term, it depends, obviously, time of year. COVID has messed with Airbnb prices and everything a lot, but I think $500-600 a month, you can find a place to stay, no problem, and cheaper if you're long term, and that for sure. Taxis are pretty cheap, $4 or $5 to get wherever you're trying to go usually.
Yeah.
Meals, it will, again, there's kind of the tourist effect because prices are lower, you don't really think to find the deals, so you end up spending like not more than you otherwise would, but yeah, I would say most dinners, like the main plate is like $5 to $10.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're
usually
getting,
like,
something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are definitely cheaper. This is kind of just going to nice, normal restaurants in the city center. So you have to compare what that would be back home, not your cheapest local place where you get a really good deal compared to that.
Getting around, like transportation. I mean, I haven't really found a reason to leave the general city center area, so it's very walkable.
Yeah.
Like, no reason. I haven't even found a need to take the bus or ever think like, oh man, I wish I could get on the tram or something. It's just...
Yeah, especially if you haven't lived in Europe before, coming from America or Canada. I forget to mention that. So the center is very walkable, and there's a lot of like living neighborhoods in the center. So where we are now, I guess, is the center. I mean, the Parliament building is like 100 meters that way, and the National Post Office 100 meters the other way. But it's maybe a 10-minute walk to the main strip of sort of where, like the main pedestrian street of the city. But yeah, you can walk everywhere easily. But there are trams and buses. So transportation. It's not amazing. Locals will complain about it, especially if you have to commute at rush hour. It's crowded, but it's not bad. When I was living in the hotel, it was an hour to the center, but I would often just walk because I'm kind of weird, and like I'd make a journey out of it. One interesting thing with being here, just kind of enjoyable, kind of different. I don't know. You definitely get a blast from the past in a bunch of different ways. Sometimes it's literally seeing the old lady at the market selling cucumbers or whatever it is. Sometimes it is seeing cars from the 1970s, like old Yugoslavian cars and stuff, abandoned in driveways. When you have a smaller economy, it's interesting. People value things more for obvious reasons. About a block from where we are, there's where all the books are being sold out of like trucks, basically.
Yeah. All the paper bookstore, like paper books are huge here. You'll find bookstores I wouldn't even say every couple of blocks. Like there'll be several on one block.
So many bookstores, everywhere bookstores. And then even like on this street here, I guess it's like the book district. I don't know.
I don't know.
But there's vans everywhere that sell books, and it's back to school time right now. And people just come and they're buying the used books, I guess of, the last year's books or whatever it is. But it's Serbians generally, or I shouldn't say all Serbians, but Belgrade is apparently like an intellectual city, they would claim. So the bookstores sort of make sense with that vibe as well, I think, with it. But it is, I don't know, I like seeing a lot of that. Same with like you go to the park. I filmed another video in the park, and one of the things you notice is most of the parents aren't on their phones. They're actually looking at their children or talking to each other. So it has a lot of, it does sometimes feel like going back. Well, for me, it's like 10 years in time because I'm used to Europe now. But then America is like going to Europe is 10 years in time. And then Serbia is another 10 years behind maybe how Prague might be. Yeah. But at the same time, you have, food delivery apps, Wi-Fi everywhere, the equivalent of Uber and all that. So For me, it's sort of taking the best from the past and the present. Like the things from the present that aren't here are people wearing earbuds everywhere and talking to themselves, people being unfriendly and on their phones everywhere. Okay, there is the smoking part.
Nah.
They smoke everywhere here.
Yes.
If you what's the lung cancer doctor called?
Oh my God.
Oncologist
Yes.
is cancer doctor. I don't know if there'd be a more specialty. Yeah.
I don't think. Well, I'm sure
You'll definitely make your money here, but the smoking from the past isn't good, and there's probably some other issues in that way. But the things I don't see in terms of technology are what I see as negative. You know, the phone addiction seems less. People seem to be more present when they are out interacting with each other. Which I think is a very positive thing.
Yeah, very high emphasis on like good service, I would say.
Yeah.
Like you go into a clothing store, people actually, help, and everyone seems very enthusiastic about what they're doing, no matter what their job is. Like go to the burger joint, and it's like those people are so nice. They're just like, oh, here are 3 different kinds of sauces for you to put on your burger. Oh, would you like some drink with that? Would you like water? Would you like whatever? And I'm like, we just went out for burgers and fries. This is kind of amazing.
You're making me crave smash burger.
I know, it's so good.
It is something I like, and you'll hear different expats and people talk about this who live in Asia, where I've never been due to being allergic to peanuts and soy and everything that will kill me in Asia. But about how they love the hustle of somewhere like Vietnam. Like, it's a very young population. Everyone's working super hard to make something of themselves. It has that feeling. And it's not necessarily that here, but I don't know. There's something that I connect with a mix of the hardship, but then also seeing like that burger place I'm fairly sure is owned by a few of those young people who work there. I'm not positive, but I think so. I don't know, maybe it's an entitlement thing. Like, I don't know, seeing people out hustling, trying to like make things work. Yeah. Some of it's sad, like the old ladies selling flowers or something is like obviously a sign of poverty and not a great thing. But in other cases, you see the entrepreneurial spirit coming out fully, which I like. We can call the video a discussion on Belgrade. And that way people won't be disappointed that it's kind of rambling all over.
I like
That's
that.
Like the marketing 101 is frame things like how you. So if we called this like a guide to Belgrade,
disappoint people.
Yeah, if this was called like an in-depth, concise guide to Belgrade, people would be like, "This is the worst video I've ever seen." But if we call it a discussion on Belgrade over beer, then they'll be like, that's what I want. I basically want a video to fall asleep to. So this is a So if you're tuning in here, this is going to be a fall asleep to sort of video discussion on Belgrade. If you're looking for one of those concise, punchy guides, you're in the wrong place. Very wrong place. Do you want to discuss the black thing?
Sure.
All right.
Why don't we discuss the black thing? Yeah, Belgrade.
People are very white here.
Yes.
Which is normal in Central and Eastern Europe.
Yeah, very normal.
Because people immigrate to wealthier countries, and some of these countries, not Serbia, Serbia not at all, but like Czech is starting to become wealthy-ish. Poland, Hungary, there's opportunity, but very recently. So you never really had immigrants here because it was like a closed-off communist state and then whatever. So it's just very uniform. And it's not even just white, it's like Serbian. And then you go to Croatia, it's Croatian. Yeah, what's the experience been like?
Very, very positive. So whenever I go to any place, basically, I'm always on YouTube and I'm just like, all right, what's this place like, but for black girls? Like, just give it to me straight. And I would say most of the places I found I didn't expect to have any problems, and I have not. People are very friendly. You know, they treat you like a normal person. For the
I've
most
got better
part.
service when I've been with you at places I've been to before alone. Like the place we had breakfast, you had the like the triple sandwich.
Yes, and I was just
They
talking
were like
about
two
getting
people
water.
dual serving us, and they normally ignore me there. And I was like, I think they're like, okay, she's American, she's probably rich and gonna tip us. I think that was the perception.
Yes, yeah, they all assume that you're from America or some other like wealthy Western country, I assume. Because I think even when we went to another place, I was just looking at the menus and someone just came right over and it's like, oh, would you like one in English? Because I'm like trying to figure out the Serbian. So yeah, very positive experiences. Everyone's very nice, very friendly. I think the only, I mean, you'll notice people kind of looking, but they're polite looking.
It's not from my hat. That wasn't the.
I mean, I was out today by myself, and I definitely noticed some staring, but they try to be discreet about it.
Yeah.
So I've heard of places where you go there and people will stare at you like you're a zoo animal and just be like, oh my God. But yeah, people are discreet. I've had only one experience, and I don't even know if this person is from Belgrade or Serbia. When we were in the ruins, there was just one lady and she was just like, excuse me, like, oh, you're such a beautiful black woman. Can I get a picture of you? And it's like, I'm used to, I've been to Japan. Like, sure, go have your
In all
picture.
fairness, though, I'm pretty sure she was from Oregon and she was just a Biden voter who wanted to prove she knew a black person. I think she just posted that you guys are best friends and that was her Facebook.
It could be. Speaking of which, yeah, it's like sometimes I feel like when you go to certain places in Europe anyway, I don't know, in America, I'm from a very white suburban area in Orlando, and I don't know, when you're around certain people who are not used to black people, they can act weirder than like people here who might have never seen a black person in real life. So I don't know. It's something where they're just very uptight and I think maybe uncomfortable. It could just be the racial baggage in America where it just makes people uncomfortable talking about certain things. Whereas Serbian is just like, cool, yeah, I see black people on TV. They're nice celebrities. I like their music. I don't know. But it's very relaxed. People are super nice. I've had zero problems. So it's awesome.
I mean, Europe is a very big place, obviously, and it varies a lot. But I would say like German, Serbian, Spanish, Czech, they're not worried about offending, which means they're just more honest. Like they treat everyone like a fellow human.
Yeah.
Where I mean, I haven't been back home in a few years, and home is Canada. But I feel more and more it's probably getting weird to just speak about normal human issues. It is an interesting thing when you travel to places in general where there's less tourists. So Serbia is like a moderate to low tourism city. Like I think they get maybe 1 million tourists a year versus Prague gets like 15 million just to Prague or something like that. And so in Prague, like you almost get more, sometimes it varies by place and everything, but no one's like, oh, wow, where are you from? I bet that's interesting, right? It's like, okay, another tourist. You've got more tourists, right? I'm sure Paris is the same. I'm sure Madrid, Barcelona, etc. And it is interesting when you go somewhere. I prefer it when there's not too many tourists. And then you can get in friendly conversations. Every Serbian I have met who's asked me where I'm from, which is maybe half of them, a lot just assume American because I kind of speak in a flat English accent. They know someone in Canada, like cousin, uncle, someone. I guess half of Canada is Serbian, and it's always like, where are you from in Canada? And then they know someone and they want to chat about it, and it's nice. It's like a friendly thing with it. I don't stand out here because, well, maybe in general, but my mom's side is all Croatian. And basically, I mean, Croatians do look a bit different than Serbs, than Bosnians, but it's like a similar-ish gene pool. So being, I think, half Croatian, even if I don't talk, people are like,
Yeah.
you know, you could very well be from here.
Yeah, when I was out with your mom, I think she threw some people off. They would just start speaking to her
Yeah.
in Serbian, and then she would just come out with her, well, to me, British-sounding accent.
Yeah.
And they would just be like, oh, okay.
My mom is here, and actually 8 years ago I went with my mom through Croatia, and we went to the village that I guess my grandma is from. Well, my great-grandma would be from, but like the whole line. And it was weird. Like I saw in maybe 10 minutes 2 ladies who looked exactly like my grandma.
Wow.
Like it's so small town. Cause yeah, especially like those little towns. I mean, they're, I can't say what I want to say because it just might be too offensive to everyone. But basically, and you know what that can be because you're like, I know what Dan will say. So, but yeah, they're not people like, you know, they're this. There's probably some inbreeding going on, people. That's what I'm saying. You got 50 people in this town. So, no, but it's weird coming from like the part of Canada I'm from. I'm from Richmond, from British Columbia, and it's like even, I mean, 30 years ago, my friends were like 2 were East Indian, 2 were Chinese, one dude's like half Japanese, like
Wow.
So it's like a lot of mix, and then everyone is mixing at that point because Asian girls like tall white guys and all, you know, whatever it is that happens. No, but you have like a huge amount of mixing and with couples where, yeah, I mean the little towns in the Balkans, like people do divide kind of lines. Like if you're Croatian, you should date a Croatian. And so it's kind of trippy coming from Canada, but that's not Serbia. I mean that's Croatia's 500-kilometer drive from here, and that's going down a rabbit hole of conversation. We did warn you in the video title that this is not a coherent guide by any means. So we've covered great to work from, people at internet is great, cost of living is great, food is healthy, people are super friendly, English is good, people are very healthy and athletic. Look up Serbian athletic performance. They're like the most athletic country in the world. So if you want to come here, join a gym, get a trainer, get healthy, eat their barbecued meat and vegetables. That was my plan, and then with COVID, I didn't go to the gym, and I think I've gained weight here, and it's been terribly unhealthy. I think they're introducing or have introduced a digital nomad visa as well. Oh. So the normal thing is like 3 months with an American or Canadian passport or European, but I think you can get now like 1-year visas to come and work from here.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's awesome.
So I would highly recommend visiting Belgrade, not just because when they gave me the vaccine, I said, thank you. I promise I'll talk about how great you are in a video. I already did love it here. So that's Belgrade, Serbia, as half Croatian white dude and a black girl. Yeah. So if you're either of those things or some combination and you're thinking, what's Belgrade going to be like for me? Hopefully our discussion has answered some questions. And if you have some questions, you can ask them below in the comments, and catch you in another video soon. And if you are an ENFP, I do actually have a free training program I've created for my fellow ENFPs. If you go to dreamsaroundtheworld.com/ENFP training, or click the card that will pop up here, you can get access to that free training. It has some of my best advice, things that I don't share anywhere else.